The following review contains significant plot spoilers. Please watch at your own risk.
1, 2. All right. But you'll have to protect me.
Señor Lechet, ¿está usted bien?
¡Abran la puerta! ¡Policía! ¡Policía, abran la puerta!
The World Is Not Enough is the 19th official Bond film and was released in 1999, starring Pierce Brosnan as James Bond 007. The film starts off with the usual gun barrel sequence, of course, and we see Bond meeting a Swiss banker to retrieve money for Sir Robert King, a British oil tycoon and friend of M, played by David Calder. Bond is threatened by the banker but gains the upper hand and finds out that the money was taken from the late Agent 0012. The banker is killed by his own assistant, known only as Cigar Girl, played by Maria Grazia Susanata, before he can reveal the name of the assassin. Bond escapes with the money and travels back to MI6 HQ in London, where he gives it to Sir Robert King. King is unfortunately killed by the booby-trap money, and Bond gives chase to the Cigar Girl, who happens to be outside on a boat watching. There's an awesome boat chase along the Thames River that climaxes at the Millennium Dome, where the Cigar Girl attempts to escape on a hot air balloon. Bond offers her protection, but she refuses and detonates the balloon, killing herself, while Bond lets go and lands on the Millennium Dome, injuring his shoulder. And with that, you have by far the best PTS in the entire series. It also happens to be the longest at a whopping 14 minutes. After this, we get the title song performed by alternative rock band Garbage. I may be a bit biased since I'm a fan of this band, but I have to say this song is incredible. It is tied for first as my favorite title song in the series. We'll get to the other awesome song later in the series. After the song is over, Bond traces the recovered money to Victor Zokas, aka Renard, a terrorist played by Robert Carlyle. Following an earlier attempt on his life by MI6, Renard was left with a bullet in his brain which is gradually destroying his senses, making him immune to pain. Okay, so this is a bit far-fetched, but it's a pretty neat idea. Anyways, M assigns Bond to protect King's daughter, Electra, played by Sophie Marceau, who Renard previously abducted and held for ransom. Bond flies to Azerbaijan, where Electra is overseeing the construction of an oil pipeline. During a tour of the pipeline's proposed route in the mountains, Bond and Electra are attacked by some hitmen in armed paraglider-equipped snowmobiles. They of course escape, and afterwards Bond visits none other than Valentin Zukovsky, again played by Robbie Coltrane, to acquire information about Electra's attackers. Later on, Bond does some snooping around Electra's mansion and discovers that Electra's head of security, Sasha Davidov, played by Ulrich Thompson, is secretly in league with Renard. Bond kills Davidov and boards a plane bound for a Russian ICBM base in Kazakhstan. There, Bond, posing as a Russian nuclear scientist, meets American nuclear physicist Dr. Christmas Jones, played by Denise Richards, and enters the silo. Inside, Renard removes the GPS locator card and a half quantity of weapons-grade plutonium from a bomb. Before Bond can kill him, Christmas blows his cover. Renard steals the bomb and flees, leaving everyone to die inside the booby-trapped silo. Bond manages to get the locator card and escapes from the silo with Christmas. Back in Azerbaijan, Bond tells M that Elektra may not be as innocent as she seems, and hands her the locator card as proof of the theft. After this, it is revealed that the stolen bomb is attached to an inspection rig heading towards the oil terminal. Bond and Christmas head out to the pipeline to deactivate the bomb, and Christmas discovers that half of the plutonium is missing. They both jump clear of the rig, and a large section of the pipe is destroyed. Everyone back at the base thinks that Bond and Christmas are dead, and Elektra reveals that she killed her father as revenge for using her as bait for Renard. This is a pretty damn good plot twist, and it is very nice to have a female villain for the first time since 1963's From Russia with Love. Anyways, Elektra abducts M, and Bond goes to visit Zhukovsky again at his caviar factory in the Caspian Sea, which is soon attacked by Elektra's helicopters. Later, Zhukovsky reveals his arrangement with Elektra was in exchange for the use of a submarine, currently being captained by Zhukovsky's nephew, Nikolai. Bond, Christmas, and Zhukovsky go to Istanbul, where they realize that if Renard were to insert the stolen plutonium into the submarine's nuclear reactor, the resulting nuclear explosion would destroy Istanbul, sabotaging the Russians' oil pipeline in the Bosphorus. Elektra's pipeline is planned to go around Istanbul, dramatically increasing the value of her own oil. Bond gets a signal from the locator card from the Maiden's Tower just before Zhukovsky's underling, Mr. Bullion, played by electronic music artist Goldie, blows up the command center. Zhukovsky is knocked unconscious, and Bond and Christmas are captured by Elektra's henchmen. Christmas is taken aboard the submarine, which was seized by Renard's men, while Bond is taken to the tower where Elektra tortures him with a torture chair. Luckily for Bond, Zhukovsky and his men seize the tower, but not before getting shot by Elektra. The dying Zhukovsky uses his cane gun to shoot one of the arm restraints on the chair and frees Bond. It is never known if Zhukovsky survives this ordeal, since he kind of just slumps on the floor and is never seen again, but I guess it is presumed that he is in fact dead, which sucks because he was very likable. Regardless, Bond chases after Elektra and in the process frees M from her cell. At the top of the tower, Bond and Elektra have a small confrontation. Bond actually ends up shooting and killing Elektra in probably the most emotional and impactful scene of the film. After this, Bond dives after the submarine, boards it, and frees Christmas. Following a fight, the submarine starts to dive and hits the bottom of the Bosphorus, causing its hull to rupture. Bond catches up with Renard and kills him by releasing the plutonium rod from the reactor, which impales him. Bond and Christmas escape from the submarine, leaving the flooded reactor to detonate safely underwater. The film ends with Bond and Christmas spending a romantic night together, which ends with probably one of the worst one-liners in the entire series. Pierce Brosnan's performance in this film is by far his best in the Bond franchise. You can definitely tell that he changed his portrayal up a bit in this film and takes a more serious and emotional approach. The result is simply magical. There are, however, still one-liners, most of which are cringeworthy. During the first part of the film, we are led to believe that Renard is the main villain of the film, but that all changes near the end. Elektra King is revealed to be the villain, played by French actress Sophie Marceau. She is definitely one of the best villains in the series, and the relationship she forms with Bond is very interesting. You can tell that Bond has mixed emotions after he kills her near the end of the film, which I find is a great touch. I do think that the film should have ended with that scene instead of the somewhat anticlimactic submarine sequence. It would have left a much bigger impression. M and Moneypenny return, with M being given stuff to do for once since she actually gets kidnapped by the villain, which is an awesome idea. Desmond Llewellyn also returns as Q for the last time, and is given a great memorable but sad send-off. Surprisingly, Llewellyn had planned on appearing in the next Bond film. In a tragic turn of events, however, he was killed in a car accident shortly after the release of the film. Desmond Llewellyn will forever be known as the Q we all know and love, and even though a new and promising Q will be appearing in the upcoming Skyfall, I highly doubt they can match up to Desmond. I should also mention that a character by the name of R is introduced as a successor to Q, played by John Cleese. Cleese would return in the next Bond film, although instead of being called R, he would be called Q. Our one and only ally in the film is Valentin Zhukovsky, returning from GoldenEye and being played once again by Robbie Coltrane. I love Zukovsky in this film, and I like how even though he doesn't always see eye to eye with Bond, he still saves his life at the end. We get quite a few henchmen in this film with a focus on Renard. Robert Carlyle does a great job of portraying this unusual henchman, although the character himself is vastly underused with the feel no pain gimmick. Sure, he scolds a scalding rock, gets glass in his knuckles, and even gets shot in the arm without reacting, but during the final fight with Bond, he seems kind of helpless. Regardless, Renard is an okay henchman, mainly due to the superb Carlyle in the role. Other minor henchmen / henchwomen include Davidov, Gabor, Mr. Bullion, and the Cigar Girl. Most of these are just background characters who have minor importance in the film, although Mr. Bullion and the Cigar Girl are pretty memorable. And now lastly for the main Bond girl of the film, Dr. Christmas Jones, played by Denise Richards. I know it's been said a million times before in various reviews of this film, but God is she terrible at acting. I'm pretty sure that they casted her because she was one of the supposed hot actresses at the time, and because she was American. I noticed that during the Brosnan era, many of the Bond girls happened to be American, and all of them sucked. Nevertheless, Denise Richards is by far the worst thing to come out of this film, and is nowhere near believable as a nuclear physicist. Sophie Marceau is the real Bond girl of the film, despite being more of a villain. She's also much more attractive. Michael Apted is the director for this film, and although his directing is a bit bland at times, he does a good enough job. David Arnold returns to compose the score, and I have to say it is by far his best in the series. The track that plays during the boat chase is probably my favorite musical piece in the whole franchise. The main plot of the film is a bit confusing at first, but having watched this film at least 20 times, I understand it now. I do find it pretty crazy how Renard and his men don't even care about killing themselves to cause a nuclear explosion, though. Elektra must be a very dominating woman. Like all of the Brosnan films, there are plenty of action scenes with gunfire and explosions. The boat chase definitely stands out as the best action sequence of the film. There's also a firefight in an underground bunker, which is pretty cool. I found that the ski chase and the assault on Zukovsky's caviar factory could have been much more better, though. The focus on the film isn't really the action, but the relationship between Bond and Elektra, and the mysteries Bond comes across. Lastly, the locations are a great pleasure this time around, with places such as Azerbaijan, Istanbul, and even London, England. Okay, now here's the part of the review where I get called a hypocrite and insane. In my For Your Eyes Only review, I mentioned that The World Is Not Enough was one of the first Bond films I ever saw. It was also the first in the series that I remember appearing in television commercials. Due to the nostalgia, this film instantly earns bonus points for me. The shocking part is that this film is my fourth favorite in the whole franchise, ranking above great films such as From Russia with Love, GoldenEye, and License to Kill. Yes, I did say that Bond isn't about being an indestructible killing machine, which he does seem to be in this film, but there's more than enough great moments that make it one of the best. The absolutely epic PTS, relationship between Bond and Elektra, return of Zukovsky, M getting more screen time, amazing score, and fantastic title song make this an incredible film. I do know that I am in the minority by saying all of these positives, since many fans believe this to be one of the absolute worst in the series, but I really do believe that this is a great film. The nostalgia has a bit to do with it, but isn't significant enough to make it sway that far. Also, as far as I know, this is only the second positive review of this film on YouTube. I won't be a blind sheep and say that this film is perfect, because it isn't. There are quite a few glaring flaws, such as Renard not living up to the hype, the somewhat hard-to-follow plot, and of course Denise Richards. But in the end, I'm giving this film the score that nearly no one will agree with. I give The World Is Not Enough a perfect 10 out of 10. And now for my likes and dislikes, starting with my likes. Pierce Brosnan gives by far his best performance as James Bond 007. Sophie Marceau as Elektra King makes a beautiful but deadly villainess. Judi Dench gets a lot more screen time as M, which is always a good thing. The pre-title sequence is by far the best in the series and stands out as probably one of the best action sequences in the franchise. And lastly, the music in this film is fantastic, from the title song by Garbage to David Arnold's memorable score. And now, of course, for my dislikes. The character of Renard doesn't live up to the build-up and hype of his gimmick. The whole scheme of the film is somewhat hard to follow. A few of the action sequences aren't as exciting as they should have been, such as the ski chase. The finale inside the submarine is a bit anticlimactic after the emotional scene with Elektra. And finally, of course, the least said about Denise Richards, the better. Well, everyone, we're just a few weeks away from the North American release of Skyfall. Next week, we will take a look at the last Bond film to star Pierce Brosnan. Will he go out with a whimper or a bang? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.